So as you follow along to this routine, all our sticks that we use are color coded. And if you buy yours off of Amazon or Temu or wherever you buy your tools, if you bought the same ones, they obviously don't come color coded. So I'm just gonna show you and explain which are which, just so that you know. So we don't use these first two because they're too big to use for anything, so you can just set those aside, because in most of my videos, we don't use them. And so you're left with these. So in this order, you can look, and it basically goes in this order from biggest to smallest: green, blue, white, yellow, pink, and black, down to the smallest one. So today I'm going to be using this color palette. For paint color number 1, I'm using Craft Smart Dark Yellow. For paint color number 2, I'm using Deco Art Americana Crayon Orange, Canyon Orange. For paint color number 3, I'm using Deco Art Americana Honey Brown. For paint color number 4, I'm using Deco Art Americana Calypso Blue. For paint color number 5, I'm using Craft Smart Ocean Breeze. And for paint color number 6, I'm using Craft Smart Multi-Surface Radiant Gold. Okay, so now we're gonna get started on the trinket. We're gonna start with the bowl first. So to start off, we're going to take the pink stick and we're going to take paint color 2, and you're going to place a dot on each of your marks that goes around the bowl.
You said number 2?
Yes, paint color number 2. Okay, once you have a dot on each of those little marks, we're going to take the same tool and the same paint color and place a dot in between each gap.
With the same tool?
So the same tool, which is the pink stick.
Okay.
I'll be speeding up portions of the videos just because the pattern is repetitive. Just so you're aware of that. If you need more time, you can pause the video. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next step, we're going to take the black stick with paint color number 5. And we're going to put a dot in between the ones we just did.
So just a reminder to keep your dots as even as possible. Make sure that when you dip into the paint that your whole bottom portion of the rod is covered in the paint, not only just the slightest tip.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink twirling. We're gonna use the smaller end, and we're gonna take paint color 1. And we're going to place basically a small dot in each little crease in between each dot.
So here is the slightest reminder that we dip into the paint with each dot. The only time we do not re-dip is when we're walking the dots and we purposely want the dots to get smaller in size. So in this case, you dip every single time.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink stick with paint color number 3. And we're going to put these dots above the blue ones, or my blue ones, whichever, the smaller ones.
Also, if you are painting a lot of projects and some of them are larger in size, I definitely recommend owning like a Lazy Susan that you could use, or a turntable that you can purchase on Amazon, or I'm pretty sure in one of those craft stores. But they are so helpful. As you can see in this case, it would be really difficult to turn that trinket bowl on its own without the Lazy Susan.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink stick with paint color 4, and we're going to place these dots right in between the dots we just made.
Also, a note to keep in mind that when you do paint the dots, don't press too hard. That way it doesn't leave like ripples on your dots. And obviously make sure that you have the right paint consistency. That plays a huge role in your dots.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink stick again with paint color 1, and we're going to place these dots right above or below, however you're looking at it, the blue ones, or yeah. The ones that we just did.
What color? Number one. Under the ones we just, same step. So it's the two big dots, so below the two big dots. Does he have a phone? Like they're all
Okay, next step, we're going to actually set this aside. We're going to come back to it later. So you can just set it aside, and we're going to start on the lid of the trinket. So to start, we're going to take the pink twirly. We're going to use the bigger end with paint color 5. And we're going to work outside of this ring. So you don't want to start inside, but outside. And you're going to place a dot basically where each mark is, but keeping it outside the ring. Yes. 5. Okay, once you have those 4 dots, again, you're going to go in between each gap, trying to get the center of it and placing a dot there. So you should have 8 dots around. Okay, once you've placed those 4 dots, we're going to go in between the gaps again, placing a dot in between each gap. So you should have 16 dots after this. And then once you have all those dots, we're going to go in between the gaps one last time so that they're all nice and close to each other. So you should end up with 24 dots after this.
tried to do a circle too. It's just because the lines, I went on the lines to start with, and then I went closer to the circle line. Mine is a little bit off.
Okay, moving on to the next step. We're gonna take the white twirly, the bigger end with paint color 2. And we're going to place it basically kind of in between but above. So you don't want to place it right above like this, but kind of in that crease.
Every other one.
No, every one.
Two. Yeah, but that MLP thing, that looks fun. Yeah. I'm playing, I'm doing the Jupiter mix.
Also, you might have noticed that in my technique, I like almost like skipping a dot and then kind of going back and filling it in. I just kind of feel like that helps me keep the dots evenly spread, if that makes sense.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the white twirly again, the bigger end, with paint color 3. And we're just going to do the same step we just did. So placing dots in between and above.
Also, please notice how much of my nail stylus tool is covered in the paint. It's not just the slightest tip, it's the whole ball end of the tool.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the blue twirly with paint color 1.
Which side?
The bigger end. And we're going to do the same step, in between and above, all the way around. Number 1.
The big end or the small one? Big end, she said.
Also, wipe your tools nice and clean after each color change so that the previous paint does not dry up and crust on the tool, so that your dots again are always as even in size as possible.
Okay, next step, we're going to take the pink stick with paint color 4. And we're going to do it just like we did, but we're going to skip a gap. So you should have 16 all the way around.
If you have not been counting the dots up until this point and you're starting on the actual design already, now is the time to make sure that your symmetry is on point.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink twirly. We're gonna use both ends, but we're gonna use the bigger end first. And we're gonna use paint color 6. So with the bigger end, you're going to place a dot above or below, however you're looking at it. Then you'll switch to the smaller end, dip in the paint, start next to it, and drag around.
If you are fairly new to this mandala dot painting, I recommend you trying out different ways of what works for you. Sometimes painting from the bottom is easier, sometimes painting from the top is easier. Just make sure you're careful not to smudge your work.
I like this because it's like ink right number. You don't have to you don't have to stress about the colors you're using. Figure out.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink twirly again with paint color 2. We're gonna use the bigger end first. And what we're going to do is we're going to place basically 2 dots on either side of this one that we did, and then 1 dot above them, kind of doing like a pyramid. Then you'll switch to the smaller end, start here, and drag around.
We were with you until the dragging. This is actually a good thing to do.
Yes. Color 3, you said?
Color 2.
Color 2. That's for big size. And then she does the small stuff. So once we do, you said color number 2?
Yes.
Alright, here we go. 2s.
So these orange swishies are obviously tight in the design, so make sure that you dip into the paint a little bit. That way you don't overlap the previous swishes as well.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the black stick with paint color 5, and we're going to put it in between those little gaps or valleys.
That was so stressful. That was so stressful. That was not relaxing. Except for a drink afterwards.
Okay, next step, we're going to set aside our lid and come back to the bowl. So the next step, we're going to take the pink twirly with paint color 5. We're going to use the bigger end first, and we're going to place a dot like that. Then you'll switch to the smaller end, dip in the paint, and drag around.
If you pay attention, you'll notice that the bottom portion of my trinket bowl is glossy. That is because it has already been varnished, sealed before I started on the project. So I really hate when I paint the project and I have to flip it upside down to varnish the back side of it, and I might somehow mess up the painted portion. So I always seal the back or the bottom part of it, all my projects, before I start painting. Then when it's completely fully done, I only seal the painted portion or the top and the sides of it.
Okay, so now we're gonna head back to the lid. Okay, so to continue the lid, we're gonna need the pink stick, with paint color 3. And we're going to place it right above these dots that we did.
Again, if you are having a hard time with keeping your design symmetrical, you can always draw guidelines to help you with that with chalk pencil or a watercolor pencil.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink twirly with paint color number 1. And we're gonna use the bigger end first, dip in the paint, place a dot like that. Then you'll switch to the smaller end, dip in the paint, and walk the dots. Finally, we made it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go if somebody else wants to go. Yeah. And I don't really need a car because the airport is so close. I can just get an Uber, you know. That's a fast differential somewhere. He doesn't get back until the morning. You have to put 20 just a day, you know. This is also on the time too. This is a couple hundred. That's a choice.
Was it sitting for the door?
Dip the small one.
I did. If I got paint on one of them, you could tell.
I don't think it's just a lot.
So walking the dots is the only time that you do not re-dip your tool into the paint, because you intentionally want the dots to get smaller. That's what creates that beautiful, almost like a leaf effect.
Okay, next step, we're gonna take the pink twirly with paint color 2, and we're going to walk the dots again. So bigger end for the first dot, and then you'll switch to the smaller end.
Yes.
Okay, for the next step, we're gonna go back to the bowl part of the trinket. We're going to take the pink twirly. We're going to use the bigger end first with paint color 2. And we're going to place the 3 dots like this. in a pyramid kind of way. And then you'll switch to the smaller end and drag.
You're torturing us.
It's like she's in the mood for that.
Gives a little smile.
Alright, back upside down.
So the reason I'm going back and forth between the two pieces is obviously to allow the items to dry. That way I can have a better grip of the item in my hand if I need to, and I don't get my hands into the wet paint.
Okay, next step, we're going to go back to the lid of the trinket. And we're going to use the white twirly tool with paint color 4. And we're going to walk the dots. Bigger end for the first dot, and then you'll switch to the smaller end. Okay, next step. We're gonna take the pink stick and the pink twirly tool. So first we're gonna use the pink stick with paint color 1. And you're going to place a dot in between, basically kind of like in between our walking the dots, but all the way to the edge basically. Then you're gonna take your pink twirly smaller end and drag the paint down in between to make a teardrop. Then you're also gonna take, you can do that all the way around, then you're gonna take the pink twirly smaller end as well with paint color 6 and do 2 small little,
So what was the first color?
1 and 6. The pink stick. Yeah.
So with painting these teardrops, I recommend making 1, 2, 3 at the max dots and then using the paint from that dot to drag the teardrop. I don't really recommend making more or all the way around the lid just because you wouldn't want the paint to start drying up and crusting over and then having that kind of like more of a smudge rather than that smooth drag down.
Chilies, and he goes, these are hot. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll take some hot chilies. And he said,
Okay, so now we're gonna come back to the base of the trinket. And what we're gonna do, so if you want, my mom's gonna come around and give you a cup that you can place your trinket on like this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of, this rest of the space here, you're just going to put 3 little small dots like this, just all over the place. Yeah. You can do a lot, you can do just a couple with the pink twirly smaller end.
and it's color 6.
Yes. You can do any color. I'll be using color 6.
And use the smaller end?
Yes.
So while you're painting the little clusters of dots on the remainder of the bowl, the bottom portion of the trinket bowl dish, I love placing a self-adhesive felt. That way it does not scratch the surface of wherever you're planning on keeping it.
For the last step, I was going to do some overlapping for the lid, but I think it looks good as is. If you guys want to do some overlapping, you can, but I'm going to leave it like this. Just before you go, make sure you erase the chalk lines that were over here. And you guys are done. So now I'm going to do just a little bit of overlapping with Nouveau dots. If you want, you can overlap with just regular paint, but I'm going to be using these today. So 2 liquid pearls from Ranger. They don't have color names, which sucks, but this one's kind of like a bronzy color and this one's like a aqua color. And then this one from Nouveau Crystal Drops, the color is bright gold. So to start off, I'm going to take the gold Nouveau dots and I'm going to overlap these dots here.
I'm honestly so happy about this color palette that was created for this dish. I think it came out looking so vibrant and just simply beautiful, and I can't wait to have it varnished and show it to you completely fully at the end of this video, the finished product. I hope yours came out looking just as great, if not better.
So next I'm going to use the bronze Nouveau dots and I'm going to place it on these dots here.
Also, the addition of liquid pearls or Nouveau drops are such an amazing touch to these items. It creates almost like a 3D dimension, and it's just so satisfying to touch it.
And for the next overlapping, I'm going to take the aqua liquid pearls and I'm going to overlap these dots here that we did the walking the dots around. Okay, so for the next one, I'm going to take the bronze liquid pearls and I'm going to come over here to our teardrops. I'm going to place a bit of that paint and just drag it out a little bit like that. For the next overlapping step, I'm going to take the bronze and I'm putting it on these yellow dots here. That's on the bowl. For the next step, I'm going to use the aqua liquid pearls, and I'm going to place a small dot here in between these designs, or above my brown dot.
Thank you so much for following and watching our tutorial. I hope you have a blessed day.
And now we are completely done with our trinket bowl.
This tutorial was a live recording of a class that we hosted in our studio in Newcastle, and all of their projects came out looking so beautiful. And I love that we have different choices for the color palettes, and people can customize it by their color palette choice, which makes it look so different yet the same. They did so good. I'm so excited for them.
Oops.